Okay. Should consequences for shots be specific or subjective and situational? So just for the sake of the video, even though I think everybody in this room understands what shots are, the concept. Shots, the idea behind the shots are just rules for the house. You know, we call them shots because it comes from one of our suggestive readings, Beyond the Yellow Brick Road, which is one of the books that we recommend that parents read. And you want to think about it like you're in a gun battle with your child. It's like the Wild West, you're in a gun battle with your child, and you got your 6-shooter. So you have 6 shots, so you want to make them count. You know, no more than 6 shots. You don't want to have like a long document like the Constitution or multiple pages. 1, because your kid's never going to follow that. And 2, you're going to have a really hard time enforcing it. But if you've got something that is simple, that is designed to take the emotion out of it, which is what the shots are designed to do. Very, not easy, but simple. Like, you do this, then this happens, period. Like, you're driving your car, you get a ticket, you lose the car, right? That's like a natural consequence for that behavior. You've got a phone that I'm allowing you to have. I find you inappropriately using the phone or using the phone in a dishonest way. Well, that behavior is letting me know you're not ready to handle that privilege, so I'm going to remove it. And that's a consequence. And so for the consequences, as far as like should they be specific or subjective and situational, I think that it really depends on the home and what makes sense for you and what is effective for you as far as like the parent-driven recovery piece, I think is really important. The thing that I almost always recommend and suggest to parents is to not make your consequences time-based, but to make them accomplishment-based. So like, there's difference between you're losing your phone for 3 days, which, you know, me being the kid, like I can do anything for 3 days. I can be on my best behavior and for 3 days just to get my phone back, but nothing is really changing. Nothing is shifting or changing internally. I'm not really recognizing the wrong of my behavior and showing effort to fix it. If it's something that's more accomplishment based, of like, you're gonna lose your phone for, you know, X amount of time, but it's gonna be like until I see like verifiable honesty in your behavior for X amount of time, 7 days, 2 weeks, a month, like whatever, and that it's consecutive. That like if you're honest for 3-4 days and then you're dishonest, well, your time starts over. You know, and so that like puts a little bit more of a squeeze on the kid. It makes it more about the behavior-centered consequences. Like your behavior is gonna let me know if you're really earning this privilege back or not, as opposed to just a time-based thing, which generally proves not to be as effective as like the accomplishment or behavior-based. That's like the second time I've almost dropped my phone. So I'm gonna pass it on to the parents to answer that.
I don't know if I could add anything to that. That was brilliant, more than I could say. But maybe if I could just give an example, I would definitely say the consequence needs to match whatever the behavior it is to the best of your ability. I found it very hard sometimes to know what that consequence is, because I kind of just freeze, you know, when I got to implement a consequence to somebody I'm so codependent with. So I would just recommend talking to your healthy peers, talking to your counselor, and know that you don't have to pick that consequence at that specific time. So take your time, think about your consequence to make it effective as you can. Make sure you're implementing it clearly and kindly. We call it be clear, be kind, be gone, and not discuss it with them. Once you've made that decision, stick with that decision so you don't get away from it. And just an example of kind of being concerned when you implement it, and maybe this is going off on a tangent, but like let's say the behavior is a destructive behavior like vaping marijuana, and you could just say to the kid, I'm concerned why you are vaping marijuana, because it's harmful to you. So what we're gonna do right now is we're gonna make an appointment with our counselor. We're gonna take their guidance and advice of what our next step is, and we're all gonna get that support we need. And then we're gonna manage your phone from now on until we are for sure that you are taking really good care of yourself. And then walk out of the room. So that's an example I like to use about that. So it's very specific to the self-destructive behavior of the vaping marijuana. So, yeah.
Great.
Yeah, just one more thing to add, because that's all, agree with everything, is I do think, and everything makes sense in retrospect. So in looking back, it is an iterative process in terms of this, but in retrospect, once I learned more about the stages of recovery, pre-contemplation, contemplation, action, those things, there are different techniques that you can apply in those stages. And so I do think in early recovery, shots and consequences have to be more specific, directional, particularly if the teen is in pre-contemplation. They don't even know they got a problem, right? So it's got to be more directional. It's not about, did you take out the trash today? You're fighting for your teen's life, right? So it has to be about the mission objective. So I think where you are in the mission objective is really how to outline the shots and consequences, and they evolve, they mature. I don't know how many iterations we had, but we've had a lot. And as Alyssa matured or progressed, we were able to go more broader boundary, more all-inclusive type, be honest, take care of yourself. Okay, those are really, really nebulous things when you've got a teen that doesn't even know what day it is because they're in their addiction fog, right? So it's about getting to a meeting. It's about, it's very, very directional. So I don't know. I would say there's no right answer to that. I just think it's where you are relative, or where your teen is relative in their program.
Cool. Do you want to answer that? Do you have any thoughts from the losing end?
I definitely deserved more shots than I got called. I think I really agree with what Chris said. I think you can't treat, you got a kid who's a few weeks sober or even a few months sober. You can't compare that to somebody who's been sober for 3 years, who's, as far as like shots and consequences go, like a lot of what Chris I really agree with. Like, it's not gonna transfer over. Kids who just getting sober doesn't know what's going on. You're gonna tell them you broke a shot, and like, I didn't even know that was part of the shot. So being really specific, and then like Chris is like broadening it up as time goes on, as they mature. But I think it also can be pretty subjective and situational. Kid misses a bus and, sleeping on the hardwood floor for a month, it's a little extreme. But I think shots and consequences also were a big part of my recovery. I didn't want to sleep in the garage, so I, made sure my email went out every night. I don't want to sleep out in the garage. I did one time, and a cockroach flew in my face, so I went inside. Never slept in there again. Definitely should have, but I don't have much else to add.
Nice. Well said. The last thing that I'll say about that, because you just made me think of it, is, and this is like some intel for you guys, and some of this it'll be refresher, but chances are your kids' brains operate similar to how mine does and how this guy's does. That, like, you tell me if you think I'm wrong. But until the consequences for my behavior start to outweigh the benefits of the behavior, then there's not a lot of motivation to want to change the behavior. And generally, we don't change because we want to. We change because we have to. I didn't get sober when I got sober because I wanted to. I didn't have any intention of getting sober when I got sober. The consequences just finally started to mount, and I had that pain, which is a necessary and vital ingredient for the desire to change, I was just finally like, okay, fine, like, what do I gotta do, because this sucks, I don't want this anymore, this is no longer fun, or I'm not enjoying this anymore. And that wasn't until the heat really started to get turned up, which I think rings true with your experience as well. Okay, cool.